Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It's Monday Madness. It's a new week. It's a blank canvas. Let's paint pictures. Let's tell football stories. Viktor Gate is in full swing.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Welcome, everyone. Good evening, squaddies. And joining me in the house at ease, everyone in live chat. Thank you to those listening on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your audio juice from. Appreciate each and every one of you as well. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a show with great guests like this. Or will they be great guests by the end of this one? I'm not sure. It's Harry and Tom returning to Squad Central together.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
Doing good. Doing very, very good. Before we get started, I did want to send some love to our Australian listeners. We have a really great Arsenal and Highbury Squad community in Australia. I know that you two do as well. And we are sending you our love. We have a lot of OGs who've been with us from day one down under. And our thoughts, our prayers are with everyone who was affected by the Bondi Beach terror attack. And just know that we love you. And I know these things are difficult. And if you ever want to talk, I'm here, the highburysquad@gmail.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out. So love to you and everyone. Harry and Tom, thank you so much for being here with me. I've been watching you guys, Hawkeye, been watching you, sending you messages in our WhatsApp group. And make sure, by the way, you guys, you listen to our Chief Like Officer, Tammy Steels. Let's always keep the chat respectful. As you know, we have our rules and guidelines here. So let's get stuck into it, shall we? This image courtesy of at Arsenal 97, N7, sorry, GoonerChris, always generous with his images for the show. Listen, Viktor Gate is in full swing as far as I'm concerned, and it feels a little harsh, in my opinion. I feel like I've been like, and not that I'm Wonder Woman, but you know, she had the shields on the wrists and stuff, deflect, trying to defend the Swede over the weekend, over the last week. I don't know if you caught the show with Pete from the Grove. He went in 2 feet studs up on Viktor Gyökeres, actually insinuated that he would rather have Eddie Nketiah. I think maybe that is a step further than you two would have gone. Harry, I'm going to start with you first. And I want this to be like a jump in. Don't wait, because I feel like it's just one of those free-flowing conversations. So before I get started, the whole crux of this is he doesn't make runs. He doesn't do this. Now, there's a lot of videos that went viral this weekend. And I know you've seen them. We've seen them. And I want to just play this one because it kind of sets the tone for the conversation, especially when you look at perhaps a stat for our captain who has also been out with an injury as well. But this video right here is courtesy of Toby Wrights, and we will play it for all of you right now.
Okay, nice move. Odegaard, pass the ball. Nice. Odegaard, pass the ball. Odegaard, I beg now. Pass the ball. Just pass. Pass the ball, Odegaard. Pass the ball. Odegaard, pass the ball. Odegaard, pass the ball. How on earth is my striker going to reach 50 goals and assists, 50 goal contributions, when my captain cannot play a simple pass like this? This is basic 1+1. How can he reach 50 goal contributions if players cannot play him through?
All right, Harry, take it away.
Okay, so I agree that there have been many occasions where Viktor Gyökeres has made the run and nobody's played the ball to him. And so I think the next question that you have to ask yourself is, why are they not playing the ball to him? because the runs are there at times. Okay, everybody knows that Martin Odegaard's got vision. Nobody's saying that Martin Odegaard all of a sudden cannot pass and cannot, spot a run and doesn't have the technical ability to execute those passes. Of course he does. And the same can be said for many, many other players within the group. My question has been, why are those players not playing those passes? Now, in part, it could be because they're wrong and that they should be playing those passes and they're not doing it for whatever reason, right? You can pin that on the passer. But let me ask you this, and I'll ask this to both of you, seeing as we're going to do it back and forth. If you are a midfielder in this Arsenal team and you see Viktor Gyökeres starting to make a run into a channel, do you have the confidence that if you hit the channel, that A, Viktor Gyökeres has got the pace to get there ahead of the defender, and B, that he's going to have the strength all of the time to hold it up, and then the presence of mind to play another pass or to make something happen? Because the more you give the ball,
Trossard did, and I'm just jumping in. Trossard did, and also Madueke. This exchange against Forest.
But how far have you gone back to find these? Well. This is the point.
No, what do you mean? How far? I mean, but
that's Nottingham Forest. That's months ago.
The point. Well, this Trossard one wasn't too long ago, was it? The Trossard pass. This Odegaard pass was a good pass, by the way, against Olympiacos. But the Trossard pass, that was just the other day.
Yeah, but my point is, it's fine that we can sit here and say, those players need to pass to him more, and they've done it on occasions. My point is that if he was Erling Haaland, and I know he's not Erling Haaland, but if it was Erling Haaland, as a midfielder, when you get the ball, your first thought would be, I've got to release this guy. I've got to release him because he can make something happen.
Erling Haaland, Harry's been in the league, and why are we comparing Gyökeres to Haaland and Harry Kane? I just don't think that's fair. But you are. You're using him as a example.
I'm using him as an extreme example of what happens when...
Find a simpler, less extreme example then.
Okay, let's say, I don't know, who else is playing up front? Let's say Hugo Ekitike. If I'm a Liverpool player, I'm going to release Ekitike because I probably have more belief that Ekitike is going to make something of that scenario. I'm not saying that Gyökeres is rubbish. I'm not saying that we should get rid of him. I'm not going that extreme on this. I'm just questioning why that service isn't coming. There must be a reason. There is something there that those players are looking up. They're seeing him and they're going, not sure about that. I'll take an extra touch. And some of his runs are dead runs as well. That's another thing that's really important. Some of his runs, they're not explosive enough. They're not quick enough. They're going into, that example you showed on that guy's video of Odegaard, where Odegaard should play it initially. And then rather than pulling further to the right, Gyökeres then tries to go across the defender and gets in Odegaard's way.
He adjusted his run, though, to try and get the ball. We can't say that he didn't do that. And in terms of like them trusting Gyökeres, this is the same group of players that handed Havertz a penalty like it was kindergarten for him to like kickstart his Arsenal career. So I feel like the guy's been here 4 months. He was out for 6 weeks. He didn't have a pre-season, and we're playing in a manner of which our own players who are tenured haven't really kind of played before in the way that Gyökeres has been used to.
I'm conscious of talking too much. I want to get Tom's take as well.
No, I'm loving this. I'm happy to just sit back and let you two do
my point is this. My point is this, okay? Viktor Gyökeres has to take some ownership for the situation that we find ourselves in.
I don't disagree with that.
I'm not absolving everybody else of any blame. I think we could have played passes at right times. We could have given him more service. But what I'm starting to think is that the more you look at someone and you're not convinced by them, the more reluctant you are to look for them straight away. And then by the time... How dare they,
though, Harry? How dare they when this argument about Arsenal not creating chances has been pretty much for the whole season? And Tom, jump in. Like, this is an argument that has now been shifted solely on Victor's shoulders, right? Martinelli had a perfect opportunity to pass him through in the match with who was it the week before?
Brentford.
And he passed to Declan Rice on the left instead of giving it to Victor down the middle. When you look at the stats of, even someone like Zubimendi, right, who has been really good this season, but also I know it's not his like prime role. However, to be able to thread passes and pass it, we're not passing it through the middle. We're so reliant on Saka. We're going to the left. When Calafiori isn't playing, we trust the right for Saka. When Calafiori isn't playing, we trust the going left less. I mean, Martinelli yesterday, he should have passed this ball so much sooner to Viktor Gyökeres. But there is a selfishness among certain players. And when you look at our forwards, Trossard is our top scorer and assist. 4 goals, 4 assists. This is a team that is fighting for a title. So it's not just him.
I'll jump in. First of all, I accept no Zubimendi slander ever. For me, he's impenetrable. He's got more passes into the final third this season than any of the last 5 seasons he's played. He has stepped up his game in terms of a progressive passing sense since moving to Arsenal. So I think if you're going to look at players passing it through to Gyökeres, you need to be looking at Ødegaard as a slightly Declan Rice to a lesser degree and the wide players. I think from a personal point of view, where I'm at with Gyökeres and where this debate is, I don't personally think Gyökeres is a scapegoat, because for me, a scapegoat is defined by a player or an individual being blamed for a bigger problem overall. Now, Arsenal are top of both tables. For me, it's not even a phase where I'm looking at a scapegoat, because for me, things aren't going wrong enough for a scapegoat to even emerge.
Exactly,
I think from my point of view on Gyökeres is that we're assessing every single player's contributions right now and giving an opinion about what we think about their contribution so far. From the perspective of the Gyökeres side of things, I think there is a number of mitigating circumstances which explain certainly why he's had some struggles so far, which are absolutely valid, which are no pre-season. The fact that Havertz got injured straight away, so he's had to play loads of minutes, probably more than he expected to immediately. Well, he's got injured himself and had to come back and recover from that injury. I think he's going into a new system in a new league against teams which are sitting back and playing deeper blocks and different types of styles than anything he has faced ever before playing for Sporting, because it's different. Because in the Portuguese league, even though Sporting are top of that table and they are battering teams every week, it's not like in the Prem where the teams at the bottom of the table, when they play the top team, they go and sit back. Every team in Portugal is looking to attack. They just don't work that way, because if they sit back against those teams, they still get ruined. So they try and win games. But in the Premier League, it's not like that. Every game is competitive. Every game is very tactical, and every single game is designed to try and lock the opposition's strengths and kind of biggest players out the game. And Gyökeres has really benefited Arsenal in the sense of he has taken away attention from Saka and whoever our left winger is, if it's Madueke on the right as well, and Ødegaard and Eze. He has taken attention away from those players. So Saka isn't always doubled and tripled up on. Martinelli isn't always doubled and tripled up on either side, because he plays off the last man. And we've benefited a lot from him being in the team. Hence why the team's sitting top of the table right now in both Champions League and Premier League. Their main starting centre forward in most games has been Viktor Gyökeres. So I can't really point at that, at him being kind of a scapegoat, because there's nothing to scapegoat right now. What I think is the critical side of where I'm at with Viktor Gyökeres is that I don't think he's shown enough so far to suggest that he is the mythical number 9 that we all thought, that a lot of people thought he was going to be the guy for Arsenal. The goals that he'd scored, the goals that he created, the record over the last 2 seasons with Sporting. There was an expectation, there was furore, there was hype when he arrived. He walked out onto a pitch in pre-season to a stadium screaming his name already. He had a chant within days, which he is indifferent about. But when it comes to kind of this idea of not being able to look at what we see in front of us and see what he has done so far, and not be able to be slightly critical whilst also maintaining the context and the factors that surround him, I struggle with a bit, because I think that there is a spectrum of the fan base that are too overcritical. For instance, Pedro saying that he'd rather have Nketiah. With respect, that's rubbish, because no team is taking attention away from Saka or Martinelli to put their players on Eddie Nketiah. But they are doing that for Viktor Gyökeres. So that immediately debunks for me that whole theory, because teams are much more conscious of coming up against Gyökeres leading your line than they are Eddie Nketiah. So I think that's an example of where criticism goes too far. But where I don't think it goes too far is to say that there are so many examples, not just outside of service, but when he gets service, that so far he's not done enough for me. The Newcastle game, he missed 2 big chances. The Fulham game, he missed 3 big chances. The games that we've had recently, I think that there are moments like the Wolves game where he didn't make that run. I think he should be gambling in the box a lot more. And just before I finish this monologue, Sophie, and apologies again for going on, I think if players are not passing to him because they don't trust him, that's unforgivable in my opinion. I cannot accept that an Arsenal player is purposely not passing to somebody. And what frustrates me about the clip that was shown is that I feel that is one moment that has gone viral and everyone's talking about.
It's not one moment. There are other videos that have gone viral this weekend. And also with that same token, the example...
given the service and not done enough with it.
Well, then with that same token... With the same token, there's the example that you guys give that he should have got onto the end of Saka's pass. When have you seen Saka make that pass over and over and over again in a game?
But this is the thing, Soph. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that they're not passing to him because they're going, oh, Viktor Gyökeres isn't up to it, don't give him the ball. But I think things develop in your subconscious as a footballer over time. Yeah, you develop habits. If you're Martin Odegaard and you get the ball in that inside right space, and you look at Viktor Gyökeres and he's invariably standing in between 2 centre-halves, you're probably thinking, maybe this isn't going to turn into anything. And that's partly because of the way that he's being marked out of the game. And people will argue, well, he's occupying the centre-halves, he's doing his job. But when you fizz the ball into him in a tight space, he's never displayed the level of control that we need to see from a striker in those tight spaces. He rarely wins a foot race. Okay, there are many, many occasions where he wins the foot, where he runs along with someone and he gets bumped off the ball. Like, all I'm saying is that he is not perfect. So you can't look at the rest of the team and go, it's all on them. The reason that Viktor Gyökeres is not scoring.
I'm really not saying it's not all on them, but we have seen glimpses of him taking the ball, the first goal, like he took on at the very beginning of the season. It's not like he can't do that. Getting on the end of the Eza cross, we know that he can do it, right? And also, to be fair to him, maybe it takes him a little bit more time to bounce back from injury than, say, another player. We don't know that, right? He might not be able to bounce back as quickly as some other players who've been out for 6 weeks as well. It's a 4-month palette here that we're talking about. And I feel like even in the responses that you guys are giving, and I totally respect what you're saying, and he is culpable, of course he is, and he cost a lot of money. And MIKEL ARTETA has continued to play him. But would Viktor Gyökeres be in the situation he is right now if Havertz was fit? For me, Gyökeres' career at Arsenal starting in 3rd gear, not 5th gear. Havertz would have been the chosen one. Victor would have been on the bench, and those moments would have been picked.
That answers the point,
Sophie. What happened at Man United? Who started when both of them were fit?
That was at the very beginning of the season.
That's the only example we have so far of when both of them. But are
also, Havertz was coming back from a terrible injury last season as well, Tom. And you know what? I get a sense of here a little bit, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And we can have this open discussion. It seems to me like the folks, and there's a lot of it, and I'm not saying it's you guys, right? But there's this insatiable appetite for people to be right about things.
I wanted Gyökeres. I did.
You didn't want Sesko?
No, not as a preference. No, my preference was Gyökeres.
Okay.
My preference was Gyökeres, and I hold my hands up and I will say, actually, do you know what? In one of my Patreon pods, we did some video analysis on Viktor Gyökeres, and there was one line that I said. I went back and found it the other day to show a friend of mine. I said, he just looks a little bit clunky, and I think you get away with that in the Portuguese top flight, and I'm not sure you're going to get away with that in the Premier League. But he's an out-and-out number 9. Let's do it. Let's see how it goes. And I was up for the signing, so I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't want him.
So why does Havertz get more grace? Why does Havertz get more grace with both of you?
For me personally, go on, Tom. Go ahead.
No, you go first, man.
I was just going to say that for me, Kai Havertz gives the team so much outside of just goals. So if his goal tally is a little bit modest, I can see the other benefits that he brings, and therefore I'm kind of more okay with it. With Viktor Gyökeres, I think I have to look too hard to find what he's bringing the team when he's not scoring goals, and he's not scoring enough goals. And when he has had chances, I've never felt him to be clinical. I never feel like when he gets the ball in the box that this is going to... There's not an inevitability about Viktor Gyökeres in front of goal at this level. And there's not an inevitability around Havertz either. But because Havertz is giving us so much more in terms of the all-round overall game, I can be more forgiving of that. It's the same with Jesus. We've always said that Gabriel Jesus does not score enough goals, but his all-round game is so good that you forgive that. With Gyökeres, there isn't any trickery. There isn't any guile. There isn't any creativity other than when we look really closely, did he maybe move someone out of position that benefited us? I'm having to look too hard for the good things is basically my point right now.
And what's the window, Tom? Like, we're having to look at good things over 4 months, and he was out for 6 weeks, whereas Havertz has been at the club now for 3 seasons. And I'm a Havertz fan. I think what he does off the ball, the dark arts, the shithousery, the physicality he's brought to the position up front. I would say, I'd play Mikel Merino right now ahead of maybe both of them. And I'm not being facetious in saying that, but explain to me why Havertz gets the grace for, and you could argue that a lot of fans have been saying, well, look at our wide players. This is why Trossard's getting 4 goals. This is why Saka isn't being triple marked because of what Gyökeres is doing down the middle. So again, he doesn't get the credit for that, whereas Havertz does. Give me your take.
So I just for clarity, you mean when you say gets the grace, you mean from people like me and Harry who've given Havertz the grace, not in general? Because I think that Gyökeres,
Harry, and others, yeah.
I think Gyökeres has been. I think it's pretty split on the Gyökeres front. I think there are an equal number of people who are very, very skeptical about Gyökeres, as there are a lot of people that want to that are like, are more patient with him. I think it's pretty even on both sides, to be fair. I've seen enough of both perspectives just to know there's enough people on kind of either side of the fence right now. The thing about the context of both players is completely different, for starters. Like, Havertz came into the Arsenal team in the 23-24 season when obviously we'd just come off the back of the 22-23 campaign where we'd had our first surprise run at the title. And he didn't come in to be, he came in to be a player that would operate in multiple positions for us effectively during that season, and multiple potential roles that he would play for us that season. And he started off playing in midfield and didn't have a great time because he'd really never played left 8 for the majority of his career. He played right 8 by Leverkusen and then moved into more attacking roles when he was at Chelsea. He also arrived off the back of, a period where you're looking at him to be a project. Like, Arteta signed him thinking, I can get more from this guy. He's not fulfilling his potential at Chelsea. I'm signing him to come in and basically take a punt on this guy and thinking I can turn him into a great player. I think that those first 6 months he had at Arsenal, he learned a lot about him. He struggled, but eventually kind of gained a lot more confidence and certainly moved further forward gradually as the season went on. And then we had that second half of the 23-24 campaign where we were nearly faultless, where Havertz was one of the key parts of that team. So I think he gained a lot of credit. The difference between the context then and the summer now with Gyökeres is that the expectations around both players are night and day. The expectation for this summer's centre-forward signing was the most it's ever been for a signing since, outside of Declan Rice, I cannot think of another player who's had more expectation. And that's not necessarily his fault, but what I will say is that he's the guy that desperately pushed to get the move to Arsenal. So he knew the pressure. I've asked him myself about the pressure that he knew he was coming in for. And he has said that, he doesn't think about that. He's focused on himself. He's focused on scoring. He knew the gig that he was taking when he came to Arsenal. And so that's why this season, there's no free hit. There's no give him time, give him a couple of seasons to bed in. He's 27 years of age, 3 years older than what Havertz was when he arrived. So that's why the grace period, if you like, is a lot less.
That's harsh. A free hit.
I don't think it's harsh at all. I think that's just the reality. And I will say that for the record, I've not made any conclusions about
why is Eze getting so much grace?
Time.
Because he's had the seminal moment, right? He's had the hat-trick in the North London derby.
He's not from me. He's the subject of my pod. Games. Yeah, he's the subject of my pod tomorrow.
Let's hold fire on Eze real quick, because this is from @FootMob, and you're looking at chances created, and then big chances. You've got Declan Rice, number 2, 8 big chances, total 3 assists. You got Bukayo, who really his assists and his numbers this season, as good as he's been and as a savior as he's been this season, guys, it's still kind of not good enough. I think we would all agree on that. This isn't a good graphic to see. There's no doubt about that. But I think, again, you have to combine the issues. So let's dive a little deeper on this. I've heard the argument a lot about, is it Gyökeres? Is it his teammates? What is it? Is this a MIKEL ARTETA system issue? And Harry, I'll let you dive in and go for it on this one, because a lot of people I hear in the argument is it doesn't matter who you bring in to play up front, it will be the same. Harry?
Well, it's not the same, because Mikel Merino's done a better job. Like that's the reality. Mikel Merino gives us more when he plays at centre forward all round than Viktor Gyökeres does. So do I agree that our team is set up in a way that we probably benefit from having a less conventional number 9 up front? Yes, I do agree with that. And I do feel like when we've seen the best of Eza, it's been when he has had Merino to kind of bounce off of and go and replace. When Merino drops deep into midfield, he creates a space for Eza to step into. And look, you could argue Gyökeres creates spaces as well, but they do it in different ways. Do I think that the false 9 type in our system probably works a little bit better? Yes. But my gripe with Viktor Gyökeres is not how much he's touching the ball. It's not how involved he is in the game, because you can watch Erling Haaland for 70 minutes not touch the ball and then find the back of the net. My gripe with Viktor Gyökeres is that when he does get the ball, I don't think he's got a good enough first touch. I don't think his close control is good enough. I don't think his movement is sophisticated enough. I don't think that he's a player that you can play off of. It goes into him and it doesn't come back. I think it's a technical thing. That's my issue with Gyökeres. I'm not sure that technically he's at that high level. And I will say this, and people will criticize me for this. I'm not saying that Viktor Gyökeres was a terrible signing and we should never have done it and it's never going to work out and it's a mess. He could play a massive part in Arsenal having a really successful season. He'll play a role. But if we were in a Champions League final and you told me that Bukayo Saka was going to send the ball across the 6-yard box, I'd rather have Mikel Merino trying to get on the end of it, legitimately. And if I've gone and bought a specialist number 9 and I'm still sitting here in December, and you can say it's 4 months or whatever, but I think it's enough time to get a feel for what a player is about. You know, and with Kai Havertz, we looked at it and we went...
After 4, really? Like after 4... So
when
your gut is telling you that Gyökeres is a bust?
My gut is telling me that Viktor Gyökeres isn't as good as we thought he was. That's what my gut is telling me. And that is based on nothing to do with commitment levels, nothing to do with his desire to succeed. I don't doubt that he's happy to be at Arsenal. I don't doubt that he's giving his best. I just don't think, based on what I've seen so far, he's technically at the level required to the point where he can barely touch the ball for 50, 60 minutes. A ball comes his way, one chance, got to take it. And he's got that quality, that conviction. I don't think it's there. That's my concern with Viktor Gyökeres. And I'm not saying that you should write the end of your novel about Viktor Gyökeres 4 months into his Arsenal career, but you can get a feel of the direction in which it's going. And if it turns and it goes the right way, we could end up with a Granit Xhaka situation where, you know, we're all thinking one thing and by the end of it, we've all had our minds change. And I hope it happens. But right now, I don't see him as an elite level striker. And I think that I'll tell you what summed it up for me, guys. Tom, we spoke in the press room at halftime of the Wolves game. I was livid with Viktor Gyökeres. I thought his performance was really poor that night, as was the performance of many others as well, let's be honest. But when Mikel Arteta made those changes in the second half, and I saw Trossard get up, I saw Merino get up as one of them as well. Honest to God, I thought, bring Merino on for Gyökeres. I should not be thinking that. I should not be thinking, bring the makeshift guy in and replace the striker that we paid big money for.
Why? Do you not think a lot like bring Eza on for Odegaard? Or, you know,
Those two haven't been at it either. Those two haven't been at it either.
This is what I'm saying. So why are we not applying the same microscope and the same energy towards Odegaard and Eze? Why not?
We are. Odegaard gets talked about after every game. Eze the same. I'm literally doing a podcast tomorrow on Eze.
You guys don't do a sole show on just talking about how inept Odegaard has been at assists and passes. And I don't care what anyone says about that video. I think Gyökeres did dodge and tried to change his run in order to make himself even more available for Odegaard. And I just find it really... listen, I get what you're saying, Harry. You make some really good points. And yes, are there some yellow flags? Of course. But I think like when you look at our chance creation, I've put all these graphics up and everything with regards to our forward line, a lot of players are having a stinker. And this is why it comes back to, right? You talk about Marino finishing his chances. Okay, that's fine. Look at Martinelli, scores 5 goals in a row in the Champions League. Can't do it in the Premier League. Like, why? Are we playing differently in the Champions League? Are we playing differently in the Premier League? Like,
no, the teams are different.
They're inconsistent. The players are inconsistent. And for someone new coming in, I know he's 27 years old, but I just don't think he's got any confidence right now at all either. And for me, like the sample is still so small to kind of have these convictions about him potentially being a bust. Go on, Tom.
Yeah. Wouldn't you said sold like a show solely on Odegaard and a show solely on Gyökeres? What do you mean?
Like
I did a show today on Gyökeres.
Oh, it was you. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I've done shows where I've talked about Gyökeres. I don't think I've done like a specific show on him.
No, I would like to see, because your analysis is so good, right? I enjoy watching. You guys know how I feel about you, but I would love to see one on Odegaard. And I love Odegaard. I've been like Team Odegaard.
He's only played a third of the minutes this season.
So, well, how many minutes has Gyökeres played?
More than double.
954 in the Premier League.
Yeah, but he's new to the team. Odegaard is captain and is tenured and has been playing within this system for so long. Like, it doesn't matter. Does it matter that he was out for 2.5 minutes longer? Maybe players recover differently. That's what I was saying. So I'd like to see, look, for someone who's been at the club for what, 4.5 years? I'd like to see that video because he's regressed over the last 2 seasons.
I'm going to be really blunt about this, Soph. Like, I'm going to be really blunt. I just don't see that him as the issue is my problem, and the thing is, overall, it's baffling me that this is overall a discussion for me, and maybe that's being
you guys started talking about Victor.
Let me finish the point. I said maybe it's me being, and I say Harry, maybe it's me slightly critical towards you as well for saying doing a specific show solely on Gyökeres at this point. It might be premature, and maybe you'll take that on the chin. I'm sure it might be premature, because I said at the end of the day, I think it is too early to have a conclusive, and I'm not saying you have, Harry, but I think it's too early to have a conclusive opinion on Gyökeres at this stage.
My show was what do we need from Viktor Gyökeres? It wasn't let's write Viktor Gyökeres off because he's rubbish. It was what do we need from Viktor Gyökeres? And the reason that show came about was because I've become incredibly frustrated with hearing it's service. When he gets the service, he doesn't do enough with it. When he gets the service, he hasn't shown the technical level that is required to make a difference at the top end in the Premier League. That's my issue. This isn't a witch hunt over Viktor Gyökeres. I agree that Odegaard's been poor. I think that Eze's been poor. Martinelli at times has frustrated the life out of me. The only 2 consistent attacking players, and Saka's numbers don't even say this, but he's been better than most, is him and Leandro Trossard for me, and Mikel Marino when he's played up front. Nobody's saying that Gyökeres is the only one. My issue is that I can't take it's service. And to flip the point back on you, Soph, when people were saying to me, why is Viktor Gyökeres getting all of this? What about all the stick that Kai Havertz got when he first arrived? Kai Havertz got the stick for the first year.
True. So we planned a whole show on Havertz being a scapegoat. Like we did a whole show, didn't we? About I don't think it went out at the time, sadly. But like that shows you that he didn't get the grace period because.
No, from you guys, I was talking specifically, with you guys.
But can you see how the context of both is so different? Like Havertz last season, despite missing, had a better goal per minute rate than Gyökeres has this season.
So the question is, why do we keep doing this to our players? Why? When
why
the
is everyone
world's
so
against us, when the world's
I think
against
you're
us
blowing
and
it out
people are
of
throwing
proportion,
darts.
though. Is my
I don't
argument.
think so. Really?
I think you. I absolutely do. I
I'm
think
blowing it out of proportion.
I absolutely do think you're blowing out of proportion. Yeah, because in my view, like I think raising a few concerns about Gyökeres is completely fair. Like, I think it's completely fair to do that.
But you've defended people who raised concerns, say about Calafiori last season, or he was a total chaos. I'm saying that I'm defending Gyökeres because he's only been here for 4 months.
I think you're defending him from something that doesn't exist, is what I'm saying. From my
how does it not exist? You guys started the narrative. You did a show this morning with a guy from the BBC talking about Gyökeres.
We talked about him amongst loads of other things. It wasn't a show on Gyökeres. It was a show about the current talking points.
It was a big portion of the show on Gyökeres, and Harry did one entirely on Gyökeres, and I'm blowing it out of proportion. I had Pedro on here ripping Gyökeres to shreds, and I'm blowing it out of proportion.
That's not me. And on the show I did with Alex, I said to Alex on that show, do you think that it is him, or do you think there is an element of the system that's not suiting? Is this something that Arteta needs to change?
So why is he getting away with it then? Let's talk about that. Like, if you guys are saying Saka hasn't been at his best, even though he's been our best player. Harry was talking about, Trossard's been unbelievable. So maybe it is a little bit of MIKEL ARTETA. Maybe it is a little bit of the system. Maybe if Martinelli's scoring 5 goals in the Champions League and is still creating the bad habits in the Premier League, even though he's great off the ball and defending, like, maybe there is something to it where fans might be right about the system. And I'm sure he won't mind me saying, me saying this, but I was talking to Kenny Ken over the weekend, and he was like, it feels at this point that Gyökeres is like a professional decoy, that this is by design.
Yeah.
Harry.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that most of the things that he is doing that will go down well with the management are things that he's doing that are subtle. But I've got no issue with that. This is. I agree with Tom when he says that, we're maybe defending Viktor Gyökeres against something that isn't there, because I'm not saying that Viktor Gyökeres is rubbish. I'm not saying that we should get rid of him. I'm not saying if we don't win the league, it will be because of Viktor Gyökeres. But why are we all so sensitive to having a critical opinion of anyone to do with our football club? I don't understand it. For years and years and years, all I've heard from people is, where are the standards? Why aren't Arsenal, with these really high standards, PR Arsenal, this and that? That's all we've heard. And now, when people that, like myself, that were previously put in the bracket of PR Arsenal, have an opinion about something, everybody gets really sensitive about it and starts to say, oh, we're going after our players. I'm not going after him. If Viktor Gyökeres is going to be a successful striker at the elite level, he's got to have broad shoulders and take the criticism on his back when he's not playing well. Harry Kane's dealt with it in his career. Lots of other players have gone on to have amazing careers, but had points where they were being criticized, where they were being scrutinized. And Viktor Gyökeres, when he stepped into London Colney and he stepped into the Arsenal world, should have known that this was going to be the case. You were coming in to be Arsenal's number 9. Score goals, everyone will be happy. Don't score goals, and you will be criticized, and people will try to figure out why. Now, I agree that the system, I'm not saying the system is a bad one, because as Tom rightly says, we're top of the league. But the system, I don't think, is set up to get the best out of an out-and-out 9. But equally, when we work the ball wide, right, left, whatever happens, okay, we've seen an example the other night that everybody keeps going back to, right, where Saka fizzes it across the 6-yard box, and Gyökeres is the last person in the penalty area to understand where that ball's going and therefore reacts too slow. Show some variety. I guarantee if you go and watch footage of Viktor Gyökeres in the box when a cross comes in, every single time he's standing in the middle of the goal and he's in between the 2 centre-halves. Have some variety to your game. Make a sharp movement, dart towards the near post where you can maybe flick it on at the near post. Sometimes go to come near and then spin off and go around the back. Show some variety and some sophistication to your movement. That's what I want to see more of from Viktor Gyökeres. Not writing him off. I just highlighted the things that I think he could do to wriggle free of the shackles of the opposition, because it feels like to me he goes and plays in the centre half's pockets every week. And as Kenny Ken said, he's become a professional decoy. And I want more from my striker than that. That's all.
That's fair. That's totally fair. What you were saying at the top of your response there, Harry, and I know you've got to go in a minute, and I'll let you guys go, regarding people being sensitive and touchy about the whole Gyökeres thing. I think at any given moment we've all been a bit sensitive about that. You have defended MIKEL ARTETA a lot, and you've criticised him a lot, right? So I feel like, because we want to win the league so badly, and because Manchester City have started playing well, and because Phil Foden has hit a totally different gear, and because Haaland is who he is, I feel like the PTSD has really super kicked in. And Charlie Baker and Max Rushton asked me about this on warm-up at the weekend. Like, at what point does the PTSD kick in for the fans, but also the players? And for the first time this season, I felt like I saw the PTSD kick in with the players. Now, I don't know if we went into that game with pure arrogance, thinking we were going to wipe the floor with Wolves, especially after Manchester United had just got the result they did. I don't know if it was bravado or what, Tom, but for me, it felt like for the first time, there was this playing the game with a little bit of like, oh my God, we cannot afford to lose to Wolves. If we lose to Wolves, we'll be up shit creek without a paddle. Do you think that's fair or foul?
I think the Wolves game was just, everyone kind of, I think, certainly even from a personal point of view, completely underestimated the scenario. And I was listening to Mark Goldbridge talk about it, and I don't agree with everything that Mark Goldbridge says, but I thought he raised a really fair point, which was that Wolves basically just didn't respect Man United when they played them on Monday. They they faced Man United at home thinking Man United are a bit of a joke. We can probably get some points here, and they went and they tried to attack them, and they got punished, and they got put in a box, and they received that kind of result, and then thought, well, we can't do that again. So they've come to Arsenal, they've sat back, they've absorbed pressure, they've parked the bus. And Arsenal struggled to break them down for a multitude of reasons, of which, several players are at fault for that in that performance. And I think that there was a feeling going into the game that you look at that Man United result and you think, Arsenal, if they don't put this team away, I think I was saying to people, like, if Gyökeres doesn't get a goal or two, it's going to become a big story here. And others were saying the same thing. I think the same went for the overall. And I was really happy to see the way that Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, both of them, reports are that they basically went in on like the reality of the situation. As captain, as one of the members of the leadership group, were just had this huge, not huge necessarily, we don't know it exactly, but the reports are that both of them were in the dressing room just overall being very critical of, and self-critical as well, of just the group, and this isn't acceptable, this isn't good enough. We as a group need to be better, as a collective need to be better. And I think, I've said this before, from an Arsenal fan base point of view, there's such a large proportion of us that have already got Arsenal lifting the title in our head in May. And that it comes from the fact that we have waited so long for this to happen. We've got so close to it, and it's so nearly been there, and we haven't done it. And now, obviously, we've spent a lot of money. We've signed that number 9. We've gone into this position where we've done everything that we feel like we could do to set ourselves up to go and do it. And the idea of it not happening is cataclysmic. So anything that potentially threatens the idea of that happening come May is, in our minds, awful. I remember like I remember after the Liverpool game, but when we lost at Anfield, the feeling after that game was one of just, we aren't winning the league this season. Liverpool are going to go and trounce them again. The feeling was that Arsenal's hopes of a title were absolutely nowhere at that point. Absolutely nowhere. Fast forward a few weeks, Arsenal were top of the league. Liverpool were falling away. City weren't still, ticking. They are now, and that's our biggest threat. But it just shows you how things change so quickly. And at this point, Arsenal have had a mad run of games where, we put a lot into it while we've missed a lot of players. We've still come through it to the point where we're still top of the table, both tables at this point, with a perfect record in the Champions League. I just find all of this a bit much at the moment, because it's It's so early to be having any conclusions about Gyökeres. It's so early to be making sweeping statements about where Arsenal are right now, about the system, whatever, because the reality is the system has Arsenal top of the table when weeks ago after Anfield, people saying our title race was done and we weren't winning the league at that point. And I think we desperately need this week. This is the first midweek Arsenal get off since August 25th. That's how many games Arsenal have been playing. That's how many games we've been travelling to as fans, as press, as whatever. We need this week. And I just think we need a little bit of a breather and perspective about things, because I just think the hyperbole at this point is going off the scale because of how people have already got in their heads that this is Arsenal's league now. And it's not.
Yeah.
We've got to earn that right. And we do that by winning this now until the end of the season as much as possible, more than others.
I think we all believe the hype. Harry, go on, mate. I know you've got to run.
If we can't overcome this kind of pressure, then we don't deserve to win the league. So we've got to take it on the chin and we've got to work our way through it. And, you know, they're pros for a reason. They should be able to block out the noise. They should be able to focus on themselves and get on with things. And I don't think that people will say, because I've seen it in the comments, I've seen a couple of people say, well, how comes you don't criticize Arteta? No, hold on. I do criticize Arteta for various decisions he makes. But when I zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it's a pretty picture, and I can forgive a few stray brush marks.
Harry,
if
you're
the
never going to convince those people that you do. You're never going to convince those people.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
But my point, 0 point paying any of the people that just say all these narratives and rubbish about who you are and what you do and what you say. They're never going to change their minds. They've made their opinion up about you, and they'll never change that opinion. Simple as.
Agreed. You're right. You're absolutely right. But the point I'm making is that when the bigger picture is a pretty one, you can take the odd mistake, the odd, you know, slip of the pen or brush, whatever, here and there. But with Viktor Gyökeres, the bigger picture as an Arsenal player right now isn't a pretty one. So when I criticize him, people will take that as, oh my God, well, however he wants him out, he's rubbish, he's useless. No, that's not the point. The point is simply that so far, he doesn't have the credit in the bank that Martin Odegaard does. I can criticize Martin Odegaard, but he's got some credit in the bank for being a big part of Arsenal picking themselves up off of the floor and becoming title challengers. Viktor Gyökeres doesn't have that yet. Maybe in time he gets there, but he's not there today. And to add to the point that I know you're going to make, so Eberechi Eze is another one who, you know, bigger picture, I'm kind of okay with what he's done so far at Arsenal, but I've been on my podcast many a weeks and said he was completely anonymous today and did nothing. And he needs to be more proactive in terms of going and looking for the ball, in my opinion, and being a player that is now playing in a totally different environment where the onus is on him to go and look for the ball because we're facing a low block. He has got to change his game. He's got to adapt. He's got to improve. But there have been moments from Eberechi Eze that I look at and I go, you've got the potential to be top draw, like the Spurs hat-trick. His performance at Newcastle, I thought, was outstanding. With Viktor Gyökeres, I can't find many of those. I can't find many of those moments where I've gone, oh, we've got a striker on our hands. That's my issue. I'm not being fed even the scraps at the minute from Viktor Gyökeres to be sort of relaxed about the bigger picture around him. And that's where I'll leave you guys.
Well, appreciate it. I know your ride's waiting for you, Harry. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing your Eze dossier tomorrow. At ease, Harry.
See you later, guys. Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Bye. That's Harry. If you're not following Harry, make sure you do so at Harry Symeou and at TCOAGPOD. You're listening to Monday Madness with Tom and Harry. You can follow Tom, of course. I'm sure most of you are already at Tom Canton Media at the Gooner Talk TV. Read his stuff at Football London and The Mirror these days as well. You show off, eh? Look at you. Tom, everything good?
Yeah. I from my perspective, like,
let's close this thing together, shall we?
Yeah. Like I feel like we're in this position whereby, like, the Gyökeres stuff has become such a touchstone for hyperbolic conversation. And what I mean by that is, like, if anyone says anything slightly critical about him, those that are really defensive about him go mad. I think there's some parallels here with kind of the Arteta debate as well. And for those people that say anything, you know, that they say he's done nothing wrong or he needs more service or, you know, X, Y, and Z, it sparks off kind of the other side of those people on the fence. And the reality is, the guy needs time. Guy needs he just needs time. And as long as you caveat any criticism or concern that you highlight with the fact that A, you desperately want him to succeed, which I do. B, You're not making any sweeping judgments until the season's done at the very earliest about the player. It's just opinions. Like, it's just people have opinions, and they're allowed to have an opinion. Your opinion can be that you think he's been given a hard sale right now, and he's come into a situation which doesn't suit him. That's absolutely fine. Equally, you can have the opinion that with what you've seen so far, you've not seen enough, and that you're not convinced at the moment. And equally, while you might want to give him time, you're also allowed to have time to be convinced. I'm not convinced at the moment that he is going to be. But to be fair, I was saying that from day dot. Like, I always said that no matter who Arsenal sign, be it Šeško or Gyökeres, I didn't think either of them were going to be upgrades on Havertz immediately, because I didn't see that summer market being one where we were going to get the fabled mythical number 9. I'd said that all the way through the summer, that I just didn't think we had the Declan Rice type of centre-forward signing that we could make. The only one that you could argue around was Isak. And I mean, look how that's getting on, at Liverpool. The only other player I was talking about was Ekitike, who's gone to Liverpool, and I think probably still would have been a good sign for Arsenal, but apparently it's kind of, off-field stuff or temperament that is not a great fit for us. But I just don't think that the conversation about Gyökeres needs to become bigger than what it is, because what it is just some people at the moment aren't convinced, and they've got a right to say that. And equally, there are some people that think he deserves more service, and he's got a right to say that. So that's the reality. Like Hanti says, we know that Tom wanted Šeško in the summer. I said that I preferred Šeško because I knew we were going to sign somebody. Of the two, Šeško was my preference of the two. But frankly, he's not been great. He's not. And I've been saying that both of them I didn't think were upgrades on Kai. So I just think people want to desperately be on, just like they are a fan of Arsenal. People sadly put their opinions on their shirt these days, and they wear it like a football shirt. Your opinion becomes your football shirt, and you wear it like you're part of a team, and that your team's going to win if this guy does well, and that the people who are wearing a different shirt, if they've been slightly critical of someone or even more praising than they have been critical of someone else. And people wear opinions like their football shirts these days, and it's mental, genuinely mental, that people can't have a discussion, and also that people feel that others don't have the right to change their minds on something as well. So that's kind of where I'm at on the whole thing, because I just think people are nuts right now. And I think the season's taking its toll on people's headspaces already. So it's a mad one.
Tom, really well summarized, and we want to win so badly. And it's the fear of not, and the fear of, we say we don't care about what opposing fans or the media think, but the idea of going through to the end of the season and not winning the title again, I just think this one is going to be one too many for people to take and to accept. And there's a lot of talk in the live chat, and thanks to everyone who's joined tonight. Don't forget to hit the like button. I mean, when you look at what's happening in the striker position too, Isak, he's been injured, has not hit the ground running. Wirtz, I know, different position, but imagine paying for that. And again, he's to some Liverpool fans, they would argue, like my argument when I say players who work in the shadows, which is what Odegaard has been for me for a while, but something's just gone off the boil for me over the last few months. Ekitike, probably the one that has really truly hit the ground running. Šeško, injured, but has been rubbish, absolute garbage. So what would the narrative be if we had assigned Šeško? I think Gyökeres has looked a lot better than Šeško when he's played. So it feels like we're always comparing someone to something or someone to someone, right? And that Harry Kane and Haaland argument, and as you know, when you asked me to do a video who I wanted to sign and people thought I was nuts, I thought we should have taken a gamble on Lewandowski, right?
Yeah.
And
who, by the way, would have probably done quite well this season.
he was my guy. It's like, you want to win now, go get him. Barcelona are struggling financially. But I think that's the issue, right? There's always comparisons, and that's just the way football is. And right now, the issue is, as I said to you and Harry, is that Man City are we don't like being the hunted. They like being the hunter. I know this may sound crazy to people, but I'd almost rather be chasing them. If we beat Man City at the Etihad, Do we win the title? And also, how big is this game against Aston Villa now, Tom?
Oh, well, it's massive, isn't it? Like that, I was there at Villa Park. It was an awful experience at the end of that game. It's probably the game I've struggled the most to do my job, if you like. To after that's gone in, I've got to write up XYZ pieces. I've got to talk about it in the morning. Those moments, as you and I have the same situation where, as fans, when you produce content, written or video, you lose twice when Arsenal lose. You lose as a fan, and you lose as a person who's then got to go and create all this stuff around it. So it's horrible. And I think that game at Arsenal Villa have been such a thorn in the side of Arsenal's title races that Arsenal absolutely need to overcome that game. I don't want to see Arsenal and Arteta being cautious, because he's been cautious in certain games, and I don't want him to be cautious. Starting Mourinho against Man City, terrible decision. And and the way in which he approached the second half at Anfield, terrible decision. Like, we need to go into that game with the intention of avenging that result, that performance. But it's not just about that game. It's about Everton. It starts at Everton. The response to this period of difficulty and struggle and challenge, which, if we're honest, has just been the defeat to Villa, an unconvincing victory against Wolves, a draw at Chelsea, which easily could have been a win, a draw at Sunderland, which could have easily been a win. And in reality, it's nowhere near as bad as what people think. I think people consume too much media these days, which ultimately kind of gets them bogged down in a bit of a hole about how they are, and usually surround themselves in a little bit of an echo chamber as well, which doesn't help, because they just then get that feedback loop of making them angrier and angrier and angrier. And I just think that it's a situation now at Arsenal as fans where you should look forward to the next game. You just got to take a bit of perspective. You've got to sort of look at the table and think, pretty good right now. City looking good. City are always good. That's no surprise. That shouldn't surprise anybody that they won at Palace. That's what we're up against. That's what we've got to win against. The reality for us as well is that, I mean, I thought our luck with injuries last season was horrendous.
Yeah.
It's mad where we are already this season. So we were very lucky in 23-24 with the injuries that we didn't have. But this season, again, it's gutting. Like, you just hear it just feels like there's a new injury every week. White today, apparently he's out for 4 weeks at least. Dowman, we lose last week. He's out for 2 months at least. You've lost Gabby. You've lost these other players. It's just. I think that's another thing that's fair that's kind of on Arsenal fans. It's hammer after hammer blow. And I can see Rumbly says we were 7 points clear, Tom. Yeah, we were 7 points clear. We've also played every single one of the big away tests other than City this season. We've had by far the hardest first half of the campaign while missing all these players. I was chatting to Elliot from the Arsenal Vision when Gabby got injured. We both agreed that we were going to drop points as a result of him getting injured. That's natural. You can't replace that. You're going to lose points. It's going to cost you moments not having a player as good as that in your team. All that matters, it doesn't matter where we are now. It's going to matter where we are at the end of the season. But where we are now is still top, and that should still give you the encouragement. That's where I'm at. I just think people have short memories. That's all. That's where I'm at with it.
Do you think it's like when we've been lauding our depth this season, and to be honest with you, call me crazy, I wouldn't have been mad if Mikel rolled the same starting 11 dice as he did in the Champions League against Wolves. There's something about that Villa game, right? The PTSD that I was asked about and that I talk about a lot, and I know some people disagree with me about it, but it is real, it is true. How you behave mentally when the spotlight is on you has everything to do with success and failure. And that image of everyone like decked out at Villa Park, that's stayed with some players. And as a professional, it should stay with you in a good way, that you overcome adversity and you come back and show who you are. And we just didn't do that against Wolves. Like, we were pathetic, Tom. Like,
and they know it. They're under no illusion, Soph, that they were bad. That's for sure. Like, if we see a similar performance against Everton as we saw against Wolves, that's when I think you can look at and go, there's a serious problem. We were good in Bruges, battered Bruges. Bruges were spirited. They gave us problems, but we battered them in the end. We deserved to win by more than that. You look at the game against Brentford again, they sat back. We could have had more goals than we scored. Again, the games that we've dropped points in this season, all the games we've dropped points this season, Arsenal could have easily been on the winning side in all of them. So there's not been a performance where Arsenal have been simply outplayed. I think the Villa game was much closer than it felt because of the scoreline at the end of it. And we created enough chance in that game to win it as well, but sadly didn't take them. And I just think that, the reality just feels much worse. Sorry, the feeling of the reality is much worse than what the actual reality is, I think, right now.
Yeah, James said that on our post-game show, and I agreed with him because I've been of the ilk. Like, I don't care about performances. I just want to win the title this year. I was talking to Adam Cattrall, and I said Arsenal are like a blue-collar team who drink champagne sometimes, and I feel like that's exactly what we are under MIKEL ARTETA. And I would take a lot of this just to win the title, to get the monkey off our back, just cross the finish line. But the performance against Wolves is unacceptable. But what James was saying is it seeped in a little at Chelsea. It was there against Villa. It was maybe for some fans, Sunderland. They would even throw it in there. And now
First
against
half against
Wolves.
Sunderland was terrible. First half against Sunderland was awful. Yeah.
So the Everton game, I agree with you, but again, if we win it, do we care if we win the title? I'm leaning towards, at this point, I just want to win it so bad.
Yeah, of course everyone does. Yeah,
I would take, some really shit performances in order to get there.
I think that it's fair that if we win the league at the end of the season, and we've done it by having a lot of crap performances, I don't care. That's not what this season. This season is all about winning. That is all this season is about. They know it, we know it, and that's why our headspaces, that's why our fuses are so much shorter than they are in any other campaign, because this season is all about winning. That is all that matters. Second place is not good enough. Period. Not good enough in any sense of the word. If Arsenal come out of this season with nothing, it's a cataclysmic failure. I don't need to say that. We all know that. Like, that's the thing. And people feel like some in the fan base, some, maybe me, others, Harry, whatever, they feel like they need to hear us say it. So if that gives you any cozy warmth like a fire in the night, I hope it does. But I've said it. That's the reality. We all know that, though. We know that if we don't win anything this season, it is a cataclysmic failure. And there's no amount of injuries aside. Like, we did all the business we could do in the summer. We couldn't have done any more. Signed as many players as we could. And the reality as well, when it comes to like injuries, is that while the whole overtraining conspiracy is a load of bollocks, like when it comes to the decisions that are made, starting Ben White 4 times in 10 days, that causes an injury. So that's on the manager. Like, you have to look inward, in my opinion, to start Ben White. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I said it afterwards because I reflected on it. I thought, you know what? As is being pointed out by a lot of fans, starting White 4 times in 10 days, that's going to risk an injury. And he said it afterwards. Like, he said the words, we're buying tickets for injuries. He said, by starting Saliba here, we're buying tickets for injuries. Now,
but he didn't have to buy that ticket, Sometimes he just should use the coupons that he has, instead of going out and spending.
I don't think he did. Yeah. But there's also the caveat to that, which is he knows more than us. And I don't mean like in terms of football. He does know more than you, listener. Sorry to break that to you. He does know more than you. But the reality, and you should know that, but the reality is that he knows more than us in terms of like the certain loads of certain players. There might have been something that we're unaware of that he felt like he had to start Ben White. But I just can't work it out, because Lewis Skelly came on. Every single one of those 3 defenders shifted one place to the right. Timber to right back, Saliba to right centre-back, Hincapié to left centre-back, and Miles Lewis Skelly goes in at left-back. You've even got Norgard, who had a great game in Bruges at centre-half if you really wanted to, and he could have rested him. Like, you could have started Timber at right-back, Norgard at centre-back, Hincapié left centre-half, still rest Saliba, play Miles Lewis Skelly. He could have done that, but he didn't. And that's actually GoonerChris says, Tom Canton sounds angry. Never heard him like this. It's because I really want to win, Russ. And I've always wanted to win. But this season, there's just such a level of pressure.
There is.
More than there ever have been before. That when things are looking a little bleak, as they have done, as I said, the fuses for all of us are shorter. Our fuses are shorter this season. That's the reality.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, and we'll leave you with this, is you want to win the title, go beat City in their backyard, beat Aston Villa on the 30th, and don't start a new trend at Everton Stadium this weekend like Goodison Park, right, Tom? You just go and win these games. This is all that you need to do. Just win, baby, as the famous Al Davies of the Raiders said. And you win the title. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't overthink things. Don't get all like, computer technology crazy, doing your little, Bunsen burner, like this picture I love of Mikel, the Under Armour shot, and then the bleacher shot on the left. I mean, sometimes it feels like a little overthinking, a little too smart ass. And this is why I like the addition of Heinze and how he behaves on the sideline. There's something about him that I think has added what I think is the difference with Mikel. He seemed calmer, less emotional this season, and that's coming from how crazy he was as a player, but maybe as an assistant, he's helping him stay a little bit more grounded and challenging him in his thoughts. I hope so. I'm not sure how that would go. If Pete was here with Tom, maybe we'll do it. Maybe not. We'll see. Let's see if they agree to it. It'd be like Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. Come on. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. There's some football on that you could go watch right now. Appreciate our audio listeners checking in as well. Hope you enjoyed this episode. It's good to have healthy debate and discussion. And I appreciate Harry and Tom. And, you know, we have opinions. Opinions are not facts. So make sure you let us know in the comments section what you think. Just remember to always be respectful. Tom, what do you have coming up in the morning? And a special edition on
Gyökeres, mate. Just Gyökeres. Next for Tuesday, Gyökeres. Wednesday, Gyökeres. Thursday, Gyökeres. Saturday, well, I might take a day off and do, you know, might do a love in on Havertz. Just you know, just going to put a picture of Havertz and a little love heart and say, just watch that for an hour, people. I think that's that's what you want to do.
It must be nice for you to not have a presser like, you know, twice this week. That must be nice.
So the big reason why I did that show yesterday with Alex was, you know, obviously Alex is a brilliant talker. One of the big reasons why I did it. Not saying it wasn't, but it meant it was a pre-record that I got to have. That's the first line I've had in so long, like since the last international break. So that's the reality. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm tired. If I'm tired, they must be broken. Like Declan Rice must be on the floor. If I'm shattered, I'm not the one out there kicking the ball around.
He looked so unwell and he looked pale. Like he should not.
He should have played. It should have been to Mendyeza and Ødegaard.
Anyone but him. Protect him at all costs. And I loved how pissed off he was at the end. He was like, don't celebrate the goal. I mean, he was literally just leading by example. God bless Declan Rice. All right, Tom, thank you so much again. Squaddies, don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. At ease. Back on Wednesday at 7:30 with James Green from Sky Sports, who was fuming after the Wolves game. We'll see what he has to say. Until then, night. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. Bye, everyone.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.